I never imagined that love could hurt more than loneliness itself, until the day when the man who promised to love me forever looked into my eyes and told me I wasn't beautiful enough to be his wife. That night, sitting in the driver's seat of my car parked in some dark corner of Atlanta, with my hands trembling on the steering wheel and the salty taste of tears on my lips, I realized something nobody had ever taught me. Sometimes, the person who hurts you the most is the one you loved the most. The worst kind of rejection isn't when someone abandons you. It's when someone decides you're not worth enough and makes sure you know it. Before I continue telling you how I survived the most painful public humiliation of my life and how I transformed that pain into rebirth, I need to ask you something. If you've ever felt small, invisible, or insufficient in the eyes of someone who was supposed to love you, hit that like button right now and subscribe to this channel. Turn on the notification bell too, because I promise to share every detail of this journey, not just the pain, but the strength I found on the other side of it. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Have you ever believed you were living a perfect love only to discover it was all a lie? I want to know, because maybe somewhere in the world, right at this very moment, another woman is going through this and needs to know she's not alone, that it's possible to survive, that it's possible to be reborn. My name is Danielle. I'm 29 years old, and for 2 years of my life, I believed I had found the man of my dreams. I worked as a nurse at a hospital in Atlanta, pulling double shifts, caring for patients, saving lives while forgetting to take care of my own. My routine was exhausting, but I loved what I did. You know that feeling of purpose, of waking up tired but knowing your work matters? That's what I felt. But deep down, I dreamed of something more, that kind of love you see in movies, that warm embrace waiting at home after a 12-hour shift. And then I met Ethan. It was at a friend's party on a hot summer Saturday. I was there more out of obligation than desire, exhausted after a hellish week at the hospital. I wore a simple dress, my hair somewhat messy, tied in a bun. Not much makeup because honestly I just wanted a cold beer and to go back home. But when our eyes met for the first time across that crowded room, something happened. He had that easy smile, the kind that completely disarms you. Dark hair slightly tousled, brown eyes that seemed to see right through you, and a casual confidence that made me forget for a moment just how tired I was. "You're the most beautiful girl at this party, and you're not even trying," was the first thing he said to me, leaning against the kitchen counter with that smile of someone who knows exactly the effect they have. I laughed, somewhat awkwardly, somewhat flattered. "Do you say that to everyone?" "Only to those who look like they just saved the world." He pointed to the hospital badge I had forgotten hanging from my purse. "Nurse?" And that's how it started. We talked all night long, about everything and about nothing. He told me about his work in marketing, about how he wanted to travel the world, about his complicated childhood, and the dreams he still had. I talked about medicine, about the feeling of holding a scared child's hand before surgery, about how I wanted to make a difference. When I realized it, it was already 3 a.m, and we were sitting on the curb in front of the building, sharing cold French fries from some random drive-thru. "I've never met anyone like you," he said that night, with a sincerity that seemed genuine. "You're real. You don't have filters. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're just you." And I believed him. God, how I believed him. The first few months were like a waking dream. Ethan would show up at the hospital at the end of my shift with coffee and donuts, waiting for me to change clothes just to give me a kiss before I went home. He'd send flowers with silly notes. "For the woman who takes care of everyone but forgets to let someone take care of her." He'd call in the middle of the night when I was on night shift, just to hear my voice, saying he couldn't sleep without talking to me. We planned our future together in whispered conversations at dawn. A house with a garden, 2 dogs, maybe children someday. A simple wedding on a beach at sunset. Just the 2 of us with the ocean as our witness. I had never been one of those girls who dreamed of a princess wedding or expensive dresses. But with him, for the first time, I imagined myself wearing a simple white dress, barefoot in the sand, saying yes to someone who truly knew me. For the first time, the future had color, had shape, had a name. But nobody tells you that sometimes love starts like a fairy tale and ends like a nightmare. The change was gradual, so subtle that it took me a while to notice. It started with the flowers that stopped arriving. Then, the midnight calls became shorter, colder, until they disappeared completely. The affectionate messages turned into quick emojis, monosyllabic responses, read receipts without replies. When I asked if everything was okay, he said he was just busy with work, stressed, tired. And I, always understanding, always willing to give space, accepted the excuses because I still believed in the love we had built. But it wasn't just that. The way he looked at me changed. That sparkle in his eyes that made me feel like the most beautiful woman in the world was fading, replaced by something different, something I couldn't name, but that hurt every time our eyes met. It was as if he were constantly evaluating me, measuring, weighing, and always finding something lacking. The first criticisms came disguised as care, wrapped in smiles that didn't reach his eyes. "Don't you think you're gaining a few pounds? It's just that I worry about your health, babe. Your hair. Have you thought about changing it? Like, doing something different, more modern? Wow, you could dress up more, you know? The girls at the gym are always impeccable." Each phrase was a small stab, but I tried to laugh, pretend it didn't hurt. I convinced myself he was just trying to help me be my best version. I started paying more attention to the mirror, looking for the flaws he saw that I didn't. That little belly that never bothered me before became a source of shame. The natural hair I had always loved suddenly seemed unkempt. Light makeup became insufficient. I bought tighter clothes, tried crazy diets, started hiding the chocolates we used to eat together on the couch. I was transforming into someone I didn't recognize, and all to please someone who seemed increasingly distant. His friends started becoming part of our routine, or rather, his routine, because I always seemed to be in the way. When we went out in groups, he'd stay on the other side of the table, laughing loudly at jokes I didn't understand, paying attention to everyone except me. I saw the way he looked at other women when he thought I wasn't watching, that lingering gaze, loaded with something I never saw anymore when he looked at me. "You're being paranoid," he'd say when I tried to talk. "You're seeing things that aren't there. You need to trust me more." And I tried. God knows how I tried. I swallowed the insecurities, pretended not to see the notifications he hid, ignored the different perfume that sometimes came impregnated on his shirt. Because when you love, you accept lies you wouldn't accept from anyone else. You pretend not to see what's screaming right in your face. But life has a cruel way of throwing the truth in our lap when we least expect it. Marcus's birthday party, Ethan's best friend, was on a Saturday night. When I received the invitation, my heart leaped. It had been months since Ethan had taken me out with his friends. I saw through social media the parties, the barbecues, the gatherings, and there was always an excuse for me not to go. "It's going to be boring, babe. You're so tired, better rest. It's just guy stuff, you'd be bored." But this time he invited me, said he wanted to take me, that he missed me in those moments. I should have noticed something was wrong, should have trusted that knot in my stomach, that inner voice screaming for me to stay home. But I was so desperate to believe we still had something worth saving, so starved for any crumb of attention, that I ignored all the signs. I spent the entire week planning that night. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital to save money and buy a new dress, a tight black dress, the kind that accentuates curves, with a delicate neckline on the back. I made an appointment at the most expensive salon I could afford, got a blowout, nails done, professional makeup. I bought high heels that hurt my feet, but made me feel powerful. I wore that perfume he had said he loved in the first months of our relationship. When I looked at myself in the mirror before leaving, for the first time in months I felt beautiful. Not for his approval, but for myself. The dress fell perfectly. My hair shone under the bathroom light. The makeup enhanced my eyes in a way that made me look confident, strong. For a moment, I remembered the woman I was before him, that fearless nurse who saved lives without caring about anyone's opinion. "Are you ready?" Ethan shouted from the living room, his voice impatient. "Coming." I took one last look in the mirror, took a deep breath, and left the room with a smile I forced to look natural. When he saw me, there was a pause. For a second, just 1 second, I thought he was going to say something kind, that he would look at me the way he did in the beginning. But all I got was a quick nod and a, "Let's go. We're late." The party was at an elegant bar in downtown Atlanta, one of those with low lights, loud music, and expensive drinks. When we arrived, the place was already packed. Marcus greeted us with effusive hugs, congratulated Ethan with those backslaps that men do, and gave me a polite but cold hug. I noticed the looks. Some people smiled, others looked away too quickly. There was something in the air, a tension I couldn't identify, but that instantly made me uncomfortable. "Do you want something to drink?" I asked Ethan, trying to make conversation. "Later," he replied without looking at me, already moving away toward the group of friends gesturing from the other side of the bar. I stood there, holding my purse too tightly, smiling at people who barely greeted me. I felt invisible, out of place, as if I were an intruder in his life, not the girlfriend who should be by his side. I tried to blend in. I struck up conversations with some girls, complimented the drinks, pretended interest in empty conversations about TV shows and gossip about people I didn't know. But every fake laugh I gave made me feel more distant from myself. Every minute I spent there, I felt smaller. It was when we sat at the table that everything collapsed. We were all around a large table: Ethan, Marcus, 4 other friends of theirs and their girlfriends, and me. The conversation flowed between sips of beer and portions of French fries. I was quiet, just observing, when I heard Marcus ask, loud enough for the entire table to hear, "So, Ethan, when's the wedding happening? You guys have been together for how long? 2 years?" The bar seemed to have gotten quieter suddenly, or maybe it was just the blood pulsing in my ears. My heart raced. I looked at Ethan, hoping he'd change the subject, make a joke, anything. But what I saw on his face was something that froze me. A crooked smile. That kind of smile someone makes when they're about to drop a line that's going to cause impact. He took a long sip of beer, set the bottle on the table with a thud that seemed to echo, and then looked at Marcus with a mischievous gleam in his eyes. "Wedding," he laughed. It wasn't a nervous or uncomfortable laugh. It was a genuine guffaw, as if the idea were too absurd to be taken seriously. "Only if she gets prettier, right? Because the way she is..." He made a dramatic pause, looked at me for the first time that night, and completed, "You can't marry that." The world stopped. In that second, everything became distorted. The laughter that exploded around the table seemed to come from very far away, as if I were underwater. I felt my face burn in a mixture of humiliation and disbelief. My entire body started trembling, not from cold, but from something much worse: shame, pain, desperation. My hands sweated cold. My heart raced so fast I thought I was going to have a heart attack right there. The entire table laughed. Some laughed loudly, without disguising it. Others did that uncomfortable laugh of someone who knows the joke went too far but doesn't have the courage to say anything. And Ethan? Ethan kept smiling, as if he had just told the best joke of the night. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed in that chair, feeling people's eyes on me, measuring, judging, silently agreeing with him. One of the girls at the table gave me a look of pity mixed with satisfaction, that look that says, "Glad it's not me." Marcus tried to quickly change the subject, noticing the heavy atmosphere, but the damage was already done. "That" was all I could think. He called me that, not her, not by my name. That, as if I were a defective object, a disposable option, something that doesn't serve any important purpose. I stood up from the table in an automatic movement. My legs trembled so much, I could barely balance in the high heels I had chosen so carefully hours before. I grabbed my purse, mumbled something about needing to go to the bathroom, and left there with whatever dignity I had left, which wasn't much. I walked right past the bathroom, walked right past the exit. I pushed the heavy glass door and went out to the street, where the cold Atlanta night air hit my hot face. The sidewalk was full of people laughing, talking, living their perfectly normal lives while mine was falling apart. I walked fast, almost running, without direction, just wanting to get away from that place, from those laughs, from that table where I had just been publicly humiliated by the man I loved. I found my car parked 3 blocks later. I got in, locked the doors, and only then did I break down. I cried like I had never cried in my life. It wasn't that pretty movie crying. It was the kind of ugly, desperate crying that comes from the depths of your soul. Violent sobs that made my whole body shake, tears that completely blurred my vision, makeup running down my entire face. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my fingers turned white. I screamed inside the empty car, a scream of pain, of anger, of humiliation so deep It felt like I would never be able to look at myself again without feeling disgust. My phone vibrated. A message from him. "Where did you go?" It was just a joke. A joke. He called that a joke. I ignored the message. I put on a random playlist and drove. Not home. I couldn't stay still within 4 walls with those thoughts. I drove through the empty streets of Atlanta, without a destination, just needing to feel like I was moving, fleeing, escaping that moment I desperately wanted to erase from memory, but knew would be marked forever. I ended up stopping at an empty parking lot near the Chattahoochee River. I turned off the engine and sat there in the dark, listening to the distant sound of running water and crickets singing in the night. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My face was destroyed. Smeared mascara, red and swollen eyes, stained lipstick. But it wasn't the physical appearance that shocked me. It was what I saw in my own eyes. A broken, empty woman who had completely lost herself trying to be enough for someone who would never value her. "The way she is, you can't marry that." The words echoed in my mind like a scratched record, repeating infinitely. Every time I remembered, it was as if he said it again, and again, and again. I could see his smile, the way he looked at me when he said that. Not with anger or contempt, but with indifference, as if I truly didn't matter. That night, sitting in my car in a dark parking lot, I reached my lowest point. I looked at the river and thought things I don't like to admit. I thought about how easy it would be to simply disappear, erase the pain, not have to wake up the next day carrying that weight. I felt ugly, useless, unworthy of love. Everything I was, my profession, my dedication, my heart, none of it mattered if I wasn't pretty enough for him. And it was in that moment, at rock bottom, with the taste of salty tears on my lips, and my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces, that something inside me began to move. It was small, almost imperceptible, a spark of anger mixed with something I had forgotten existed. Self-love. I didn't deserve that. It was a simple thought, but powerful. A truth my mind had been trying to show me for months, but that my loving heart refused to accept. I didn't deserve to be humiliated, didn't deserve to be compared, didn't deserve to feel small next to someone who should make me feel giant. The following days were the hardest of my life. I locked myself in my small apartment, called in sick to the hospital for the first time in years, and allowed myself to feel everything, all the pain, all the shame, all the anger. Ethan sent messages, many messages. "Stop overreacting. You're too sensitive. Everyone was drunk, nobody took it seriously. You know me. Let's get together and talk." Each message made me angrier. He wasn't apologizing for what he said. He was asking me to pretend it didn't hurt. But it hurt. God, how it hurt. A week later, I made the decision that would change everything. Sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by used tissues and empty ice cream containers, with eyes swollen from crying so much, I made a choice. I was leaving. I couldn't stay in Atlanta, where every corner reminded me of him, where every place carried memories that were now too painful to bear. I needed to start over, somewhere new, where nobody knew me, where I could rebuild myself from scratch. I searched for nursing positions in other cities. Nashville appeared on the screen, a large hospital, well-rated, looking for experienced nurses. That same night, I sent my resume. 3 days later, I received the call offering the position. 2 weeks later, I was putting everything that fit in my car and driving to Tennessee, with my heart still broken, but with a determination I didn't know I had. Blocking Ethan on everything was the easiest and hardest part at the same time. My finger trembled over the block button on Instagram, on WhatsApp, on Facebook. Part of me still wanted that connection, still hoped he would realize his mistake, that he would truly apologize, that he would beg me to come back. But the part of me that was being reborn, small but insistent, knew I needed to cut that tie once and for all. So I blocked him. And when I blocked him, I felt a strange relief, as if I had taken an enormous weight off my shoulders. Nashville received me with a damp autumn chill, and streets full of live music coming from every bar. I rented a tiny apartment in an old building, with thin walls and a window that faced a narrow alley. It wasn't luxurious, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I was living alone, for myself. The first few months were lonely. I worked, Came home, ate something quick, and fell into bed exhausted. I didn't have the energy to make friends, to explore the city, to do anything beyond surviving one day at a time. I still woke up in the middle of the night with my heart racing, remembering his phrase, his friends' laughter, the humiliation. I still had days when I cried in the shower, letting the hot water disguise the tears. But something was changing. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, I was becoming myself again. I started therapy with a psychologist named Dr. Sarah, a kind woman in her 50s who listened to me without judging. "You're not here because you're not pretty enough," she said in our third session, looking directly into my eyes. "You're here because someone made you believe that, and that's the lie we need to deconstruct." They were difficult sessions, where I had to face parts of myself I had forgotten a long time ago. The Danielle who was good at volleyball in school. The Danielle who made the best apple pies at family parties. The Danielle who decided to be a nurse because she wanted to save lives, not impress anyone. That strong, independent woman, passionate about life. Where had she gone? She was always here, Dr. Sarah said. She was just hiding under someone's opinions who didn't deserve you. I went back to the gym, but this time not to lose weight or fit into some standard. I went because feeling my body move made me feel alive. Every push-up, every run on the treadmill, every drop of sweat was proof that I was here, resisting, rebuilding. I cut my hair, very short, in a bold cut I would never have had the courage to do before. When I looked at myself in the salon mirror, with that new hair framing my face, I smiled. For the first time in months, I smiled for real. I started making friends at the hospital. There was Emma, a veteran nurse who taught me the best shortcuts through the hallways and always had chocolate hidden in her pocket. There was also Dr. Williams, a cardiac surgeon who made terrible jokes but had the kindest heart in the world. They included me in lunches, invited me to happy hours after shifts, showed me Nashville the way only someone who truly loves the city can show it. And little by little, I fell in love with my life again. There was something about caring for patients that healed me too. Every time I held a scared child's hand before surgery, every time I consoled a family receiving difficult news, every time I helped someone take their first steps after an accident, I remembered why I had chosen this profession. It wasn't about being pretty. It was about being strong. It was about making a difference. 6 months after the move, something extraordinary happened. It was an ordinary Tuesday. We were preparing a 7-year-old boy named Tommy for a delicate heart surgery. He was terrified, crying, clinging to his mother with desperate strength. The mother was also in tears, trying to be strong for her son but clearly destroyed inside. The situation was tense, time was short, and Dr. Williams needed to start the procedure soon. I knelt in front of Tommy, getting at eye level with him. His little face was red, his huge blue eyes full of fear. "Hey, Tommy," I said softly. "Do you like superheroes?" He sniffled, nodded yes. "You know what my favorite superhero is?" I waited for him to shake his head. "You, because only the bravest people in the world let doctors fix their hearts. And you know what else? I'm going to be in there with you the whole time. You won't be alone for a single second. Promise?" His little voice was choked up. "I promise. And when you wake up, I'll be there to give you the biggest high five of your life." He smiled, a small smile but real. He let us take him to the operating room, and throughout the entire procedure, I held his little hand, whispering words of encouragement, even though he was sedated, because I believe that somehow we hear, even in the deepest sleep. The surgery was a success. Tommy woke up well, scared, but well, and when he opened his eyes and saw me there, as promised, he raised his pale little hand for the most emotional high five I've ever given in my life. It was at that moment that my colleague Jessica, who worked in the hospital's communications department, took a photo. I didn't notice at the time. I was too busy checking Tommy's vital signs and making him laugh despite the pain. But that photo captured something special. Me genuinely smiling, with my hair somewhat messy under the surgical cap, my eyes shining with pure joy, high-fiving a brave little boy who had just gone through one of the scariest experiences of his life. The hospital's communications department posted the photo on social media with the caption, "Meet Nurse Danielle, transforming fear into courage, one child at a time." This kind of compassion is what makes Nashville Memorial a special place. I didn't expect any of that. It was just another day at work, just another patient I had helped the best way I knew how. But the internet has its own plans. The photo went viral, not explosively, not overnight. It was gradual. First, there were hundreds of shares, then thousands. Health pages started reposting. Inspiration blogs picked up the story. Local news sites did pieces about the nurse who goes viral with her compassion. My Instagram profile, which was private and practically abandoned since the move, started receiving thousands of follower requests. People from all over the country started commenting. This nurse has a smile that heals. You can see the kindness in her eyes. This is real beauty. Someone who dedicates their life to caring for others. My daughter went through heart surgery last year, and we had a nurse like this. They're angels on earth. I didn't know what to do with all that attention. I wasn't looking for fame, didn't want spotlights. I was just doing my job, living my rebuilt life piece by piece. But there was something strange, and at the same time liberating about reading those comments from thousands of people who didn't know me personally, but who saw something in me that I myself had forgotten existed. Value. Emma laughed at my confused face every time I checked my phone and saw more notifications. Girl, you're famous. Enjoy it. I don't want to be famous, I replied honestly. I just want to do my job. And that's exactly why people love you, she said, patting my shoulder. You're genuine. In a world full of people pretending to be perfect, you're simply real. Real. That word echoed inside me. It was exactly what Ethan had said on the first day we met, that I was real. But throughout the relationship, he spent 2 years trying to transform me into something else, into someone manufactured, polished, perfect according to his standards. And now, after everything, I was being celebrated precisely for being authentic. The irony was almost poetic. 3 weeks after the photo went viral, when I thought everything had calmed down and returned to normal, my phone vibrated with a direct message notification on Instagram. Normally, I ignored them. I had hundreds of them, most from people wanting to share their own stories of overcoming or thanking me for the work I do. But something made me open this one. The sender's name froze me. Ethan Mitchell. My heart raced. My hands started sweating. For an infinite moment, I just stared at that name on the screen. The name I had blocked on everything, that I had sworn never wanted to see again. But there it was, having created a new profile, or found some way to reach me. The message was short, so characteristically him. Casual, as if he hadn't completely destroyed my self-esteem months ago. Hi, Danny. Saw the article about you. You look beautiful. Really beautiful. I always knew you were special. I'm proud of you. I miss us so much. Can we talk? Seriously, you deserve a better explanation about that night. I was drunk, said stupid things. It wasn't personal. You know me. Let's get coffee and talk? I still think about you every day. I read the message 3 times. Every word was carefully chosen to sound sincere, to touch the wounds he himself had opened. You look beautiful, as if my appearance was what mattered. I always knew you were special. Lie. He spent 2 years making me feel the opposite. I'm proud of you. As if he had any right to feel proud of my success. As if he had contributed anything besides pain. It wasn't personal, but it was. God. It was so personal it still hurt when I remembered. I sat on the edge of my bed, holding my phone with both hands, and for the first time since the night of humiliation, I laughed. I really laughed. A deep guffaw that came from inside. It wasn't a bitter or vindictive laugh. It was a laugh of liberation, of understanding, of absolute clarity. He didn't come back because he realized my value. He came back because other people realized it. He didn't miss me. He missed the idea of being with someone who now had public recognition. He wanted to ride my fame, tell his friends he had dated the famous internet nurse, maybe post photos together and get likes. It had nothing to do with love, regret, or redemption. It was pure wounded male ego seeing that the woman he had discarded as not pretty enough was being celebrated by thousands of people. And in that moment, sitting alone in my small apartment in Nashville, with the sound of country music leaking from the corner bar and the smell of cold coffee in the cup forgotten on the table, I had an epiphany. I didn't need his approval. I never needed it. The validation I had desperately sought from him, the confirmation that I was pretty, desirable, Enough. I already had it inside me all along. I had it in the hands that saved lives every day. I had it in the smile that calmed scared children. I had it in the strength that made me get up from rock bottom and rebuild my life from scratch. I had it in the courage to look in the mirror and choose to love myself, even with all the imperfections he had made a point of pointing out. I typed a response, deleted it, typed again, deleted again. I stayed there for long minutes, pondering what to say to the man who had destroyed me, and who now came back as if nothing had happened. Finally, I wrote just 3 words. I deserve more. And I blocked his new profile too. There was no drama, no long speech explaining everything he had put me through. There was no need. Those 3 words said everything. I deserved more than someone who only valued me when others valued me. Deserved more than crumbs of attention disguised as love. Deserved more than being the joke at a bar table. Deserved more than spending years of my life trying to fit into an impossible mold someone had created for me. I deserved to be loved for who I was, not for what I could become. That night, for the first time since everything had happened, I slept peacefully. I didn't dream about him, didn't wake up in the middle of the night with those words echoing in my head. I slept deeply, the kind of sleep that only comes when you finally let go of something you were holding too tightly for too long. Because the absolute truth I learned is this: I am enough. I always was. I always will be. Not because someone told me that. Not because I went viral on the internet or received public recognition. Not because I found a new love, or because my ex regretted it, but because I chose to believe it. I chose to look at myself with the same compassion I offer my patients. I chose to treat myself with the same kindness I give to others. I chose to love myself not despite my imperfections, but including them. The following months were of genuine growth. The internet attention eventually decreased, as it always does, but something remained: my renewed confidence. I continued working at the hospital, continued making a difference in my patients' lives, but now with a lightness I didn't have before. I stopped seeking external validation. I stopped measuring my worth by how others saw me. I got a small tattoo on my left wrist, just 3 words in delicate font: I deserve more. Every time I looked at it during a difficult shift, when I washed my hands before a procedure, when I checked medical charts, I remembered I deserved more, and not in a material or superficial sense. I deserved peace, respect, true love, kindness. I met incredible people in Nashville. Emma became my best friend, that person who knows you so well they know when you're pretending to be okay. We had rituals, happy hour every Friday after shift, where we drank cheap wine and talked about everything and nothing. She told me about her own divorce at 35, about how she rebuilt her life too, about how sometimes we need to lose everything to discover what really matters. You know what the best revenge is? She told me one night, already on her 3rd glass of wine. It's not proving anything to whoever hurt you. It's waking up one day and realizing you don't even think about him anymore. And she was right. There was a day, I think it was about 7 months after blocking Ethan for the last time, when I realized I had spent entire weeks without thinking about him, without remembering the humiliation, without feeling anger, without anything. He had simply become a distant memory, a lesson learned, a closed chapter, and that was true liberation. I started dating again, but differently. I wasn't looking for someone to complete me or validate me. I was open to meeting interesting people, but perfectly happy alone too. I went out with some guys, had some nice dates, some terrible ones. I kissed, laughed, cried a few times, but none of that defined me anymore. I was complete alone. It was on a rainy spring Tuesday that I met Danielle. He was a veterinarian, had come into the hospital with his golden retriever who had swallowed a toy. He was completely desperate, almost crying, hugging the dog as if it were his child. Technically, it wasn't my department, but something about that 6'1" man hugging a huge dog made me smile. The emergency vet doesn't treat veterinarians? I joked, trying to ease his tension. He looked at me with those worried green eyes and let out a nervous laugh. You'd think so, right? But I panic when it's with Max. I save animals every day, but when it's mine, I ended up helping get him to the right place. We exchanged numbers so I could know if Max was okay. At least that was the excuse we both used. 3 days later, he sent me a photo of Max completely recovered, with the caption, "The hero of the story Wants to thank the beautiful nurse who helped his dad not have a nervous breakdown. Would you accept coffee as gratitude? We went for coffee. It turned into dinners, turned into walks in the park with Max, turned into late-night conversations about dreams, fears, scars from the past. Daniel was different from everything I had known. He saw me, really saw me. Not the famous internet nurse, not the girl he wanted to mold, but the real Danielle, with all the imperfections and beauties. "Do you have any idea how beautiful you are when you talk about your work?" he said one night, while we ate pizza sitting on his living room floor, Max snoring between us. "Your eyes shine. It's like you light up from the inside." And for the first time, when someone called me beautiful, tentar novamente bi continuar, I believed it. Not because I needed the validation, but because I finally saw in myself what he was seeing. A strong, passionate, complete woman. I'm not saying Daniel is the happy ending of the story, because the truth is I had already found my happy ending long before I met him. I found it when I chose to move to Nashville, when I blocked Ethan, when I started therapy, when I tattooed "I deserve more" on my wrist, when I looked in the mirror and decided I was going to love myself, regardless of whether anyone else did the same. Daniel is just a bonus, a gift from the universe to a woman who finally learned her own worth. A year after that horrible night at the Atlanta bar, I received an unexpected message on Facebook. It was from one of the girls who was at the table that night, Melissa, girlfriend of one of Ethan's friends. The message said, "Hi, Danielle. I know you don't really know me and maybe don't even remember me. I was at Marcus's party that night. I wanted to tell you that I always felt bad about what happened. It was cruel and you didn't deserve it. I also wanted you to know that Ethan isn't doing well. He dated 2 more girls after you, treated them the same way, and now he's alone." Everyone in the group kind of distanced themselves from him after they noticed the pattern. But you. I saw your photos, saw what you built. You're radiant, and I just wanted to tell you, you won. Not out of revenge, but because you chose yourself. That's beautiful to see. I read the message with a mix of emotions. There was a time when this information would have given me immense satisfaction, a sense of poetic justice. But now, all I felt was a soft sadness for Ethan. Not pity, not forgiveness, just the sadness of knowing that some people never learn, never grow, never allow themselves to truly love. I replied simply, "Thank you for sharing. I hope he finds peace too. And I hope you know your worth and never accept less than you deserve." Today, when I look back, I see that night at the bar as the greatest gift life could have given me. It seems strange to say that the worst humiliation of my life was a gift, but it was, because it forced me to wake up. It forced me to see that I was wasting precious years of my life trying to be enough for someone who was incapable of loving me. It forced me to choose between continuing to diminish myself or getting up and rebuilding, and I chose to get up. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I cried myself to sleep. There were days when I didn't want to get out of bed. There were moments when I looked in the mirror and still heard his voice saying, "You can't marry that." Healing isn't linear. It's full of ups and downs, advances and setbacks. But each day that passed, I became a little stronger, a little more whole, a little more myself. I learned that beauty isn't about perfect measurements or flawless skin. It's about the light you carry inside, the kindness you offer the world, the strength you demonstrate when everything seems lost. It's about waking up every day and choosing to be better than yesterday. It's about the wrinkles that come from laughing so much, the scars that tell stories of survival, the eyes that shine when you talk about something you love. I learned that true love doesn't diminish you. It expands you. It doesn't constantly criticize you. It supports you to grow. It doesn't make you feel small. It makes you feel capable of conquering the world. And anything less than that isn't love. It's just someone trying to fill their own voids with your pieces. I learned that sometimes the person who needs you most is yourself, that you can be your own savior, your own best friend, your own true love, that the loneliness I so feared was infinitely better than being next to someone who made me feel even more alone. Today, when I pass by a mirror, I no longer see the flaws that Ethan pointed out. I see a 29-year-old woman who survived, who rebuilt, who chose herself when it would have been easier to give up. I see strength in my eyes, history in my scars, beauty in authenticity. I see someone who deserves more, and who finally believes it. My life in Nashville is simple but rich. I work at a hospital that values my dedication. I have true friends who accept me completely. I have a small but cozy apartment that I decorated my way. I have a routine that fulfills me. And maybe, just maybe, I found someone who sees me for what I really am and loves exactly that. But most importantly, I found myself. And you know that photo that went viral? I still receive messages about it to this day. Women from all over the world write to me telling their own stories of overcoming, of abusive relationships, of moments when they felt small but chose to get up. Each message reminds me why it was worth going through all of that. Because my story isn't just mine. It belongs to all the women who have ever been made to feel insufficient. Last week, a 22-year-old girl sent me a long message telling me she was in a relationship similar to what I had. Her boyfriend criticized her weight, her appearance, said she was lucky he was still with her, the way she was. She was thinking of staying because she thought she couldn't get anyone better. I responded from the heart, "You don't need someone better. You need yourself. And when you choose yourself, when you believe you deserve more, the right person will appear, or you'll be happy alone. And both are happy endings." She responded 2 weeks later with a photo of her smiling, saying she had ended the relationship, and that for the first time in years, she felt light. That was worth more than any like or share. Because sometimes we go through personal hells not just for our own transformation, but to be able to light the way for someone else going through the same darkness. A few months ago, the hospital promoted me to nursing supervisor of the pediatric ward, my dream job. Me, who months ago could barely look at myself in the mirror, now leads a team, makes important decisions, makes a difference in the hospital structure. When I received the news, I called Emma crying with joy. "You deserve it, girl," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "You always deserved it. You just needed to believe it, and I finally believe it." I still have difficult days. I still have moments when old insecurities resurface. I still look at couples in love and wonder if I'll ever have that for real, without fear of being abandoned, without fear of not being enough. But the difference is that now these doubts don't paralyze me anymore. They're just passing thoughts, not absolute truths. Because the absolute truth I learned is this: I am enough. I always was. I always will be. Not because someone told me that. Not because I went viral on the internet or received public recognition. Not because I found a new love or because my ex regretted it, but because I chose to believe it. I chose to look at myself with the same compassion I offer my patients. I chose to treat myself with the same kindness I give to others. I chose to love myself not despite my imperfections, but including them. If you're reading this, or rather, if you're listening to me tell this story, and you identified with any part of it, I want you to know some things. First, what he said about you isn't true. The way he made you feel isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of his own insecurities and limitations. You're not too much or not enough. You're exactly what you need to be. Second, you don't need to wait for a sign from the universe, a viral photo, or some cinematic moment of redemption to start valuing yourself. Start today. Now. Look in the mirror and find one thing, just one, that you genuinely love about yourself. Tomorrow find another, and little by little, you'll rebuild the image someone destroyed. Third, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to cry, feel anger, spend days in pajamas eating ice cream and questioning everything. Healing isn't a pretty and linear process. It's messy, painful, and sometimes you'll feel like you're walking in circles. But each circle takes you a little closer to who you really are. And lastly, you deserve more. You deserve more than crumbs of affection, more than someone who only values you when it's convenient, more than conditional love based on appearance, weight, or any other impossible standard. You deserve someone who loves you on mornings without makeup, on days when you're exhausted, in moments when you're far from perfect. Because true love isn't about perfection. It's about acceptance, respect, and partnership. Tattoo this on your soul. If you can't tattoo it on your wrist like I did, you deserve more. Today, as I drive through the illuminated streets of Nashville, heading home after another shift saving lives, I turn up the music loud and sing off key to the songs I love. I stop at the grocery store to buy ingredients for the dinner I'm going to make just for myself, or maybe for Danielle and me. if he can leave the clinic early. I greet the upstairs neighbor, play with the doorman's dog, climb the stairs humming because the elevator is broken again. And when I open the door to my small but perfect apartment, with the plants in the window, the photos on the wall, the books piled on the coffee table, I take a deep breath and feel gratitude. Gratitude for the journey that brought me here. Gratitude for the pain that taught me strength. Gratitude for having had the courage to start over when it would have been easier to give up. Sometimes I still think about that night at the bar, but not with shame or pain, with a kind of tenderness for the version of me who went through that and survived. I want to hug that Danielle sitting in the car, with her face destroyed from crying so much, and say, "It's going to be okay. More than okay. It's going to be incredible. Just hold on tight." And if I could send a message to today's Ethan, not that I want or need to do this, I would say thank you. Thank you for showing me exactly what I don't want in my life. Thank you for forcing me to value myself. Thank you for making me believe I deserve more. Because I do. And finally, I know it. Life has a peculiar sense of humor. The man who told me I wasn't pretty enough to marry is alone, lost in his own impossible standards that he created, unable to love because he's too busy judging. And I, the woman he discarded as not enough, am living the fullest life I've ever lived. Loving and being loved, making a difference in the world, waking up every day with purpose and peace. It's not revenge, it's poetic justice. It's the universe rebalancing the scales. It's living proof that when you choose yourself, when you believe in your own worth, everything aligns. So if this story touched you in some way, if you laughed, cried, or saw a little piece of yourself in me, leave a heart in the comments. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone. Subscribe to the channel for more real stories like this, because I promise to continue being vulnerable, honest, and real. And always remember, the love you're looking for out there already exists in here. You just need to have the courage to see it. And when you finally see it, when you look in the mirror and see not the flaws someone pointed out, but the strength that brought you here, the beauty that resides in your authenticity, the worth that was always there waiting to be recognized, on that day, you'll understand what I understood. Losing someone who didn't value you wasn't a loss. It was the greatest victory of your life. Today, I know that sometimes we need to be broken to rebuild ourselves stronger, need to touch bottom to learn to fly, need to lose everything to discover we never needed anything but ourselves. And when you reach that place of unshakable self-love, of genuine inner peace, of strength that comes from within, there's no ex, no humiliation, no past pain that can touch you, because you finally understood you're not anyone's opinion. You're not the cruel words someone threw in your face. You're not the reflection of others' insecurities. You're every courageous choice you made, every tear you dried and continued, every morning you woke up and decided to try again, every time you looked in the mirror and chose kindness instead of criticism. You're the sum of all the battles you survived. And that, my friend, is the definition of real beauty. The other day, while organizing some old photos on my phone, I found a picture from that night, one I had taken before leaving the apartment, feeling beautiful and confident in that black dress. Looking at that photo now, I don't see a naive woman about to be humiliated. I see a warrior who didn't know yet how strong she would become. I see the beginning of a transformation that would change everything. I saved that photo, not to remember the pain, but to remember how far I've come. It's my before picture, not in the physical sense, but in the emotional one. Before I knew my worth, before I chose myself, before I understood that the only approval I needed was my own. And you know what's funny? That expensive dress I bought for that night, the one I wore when Ethan said those horrible words, I still have it. But now when I wear it for me. I wore it last month to a hospital charity gala, and when I looked in the mirror, all I saw was a strong, successful, complete woman. The dress didn't change. I did. Daniel says I have this glow about me now, this confidence that wasn't there in the early photos he's seen of me. You walk differently, he told me recently, like you know exactly who you are, and you're not apologizing for it. And he's right. I do know who I am now. I'm Danielle, a 29-year-old nurse who saves lives, who survived heartbreak, who rebuilt herself from the ground up. I'm a woman with stretch marks and scars, with bad hair days and mornings when I don't feel like getting out of bed. I'm someone who cries at sad movies, who burns dinner sometimes, who still has moments of insecurity. But I'm also someone who knows her worth, someone who won't settle for less than she deserves, someone who can look in the mirror and see beauty, not despite the imperfections, but because of them. Because every imperfection tells a story, and every story is part of what makes me uniquely, perfectly, wonderfully me. Last night, as I was falling asleep, Danielle asked me something that made me think. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if that night never occurred? If Ethan had never said what he said? I thought about it for a long moment. I'd probably still be with him, I said quietly. Still trying to be someone I'm not. Still seeking approval I'd never get. Still slowly losing myself. Then maybe, Danielle said, pulling me closer, it was the best, worst thing that ever happened to you. And you know what? He's absolutely right. That night was the catalyst for everything good in my life now. It was the push I needed to leave a toxic situation I might have stayed in for years otherwise. It was the wake-up call that forced me to see my own worth. It was the darkness before the dawn. I don't thank Ethan for what he did. I don't owe him gratitude for cruelty. But I do thank myself for how I responded, for choosing to leave, for choosing to heal, for choosing to grow. Those were my choices, my strength, my victory, and that's what I want you to take away from this story. Whatever you're going through, whatever pain you're carrying, whatever words someone spoke over you that made you feel less than, you have a choice. You can let it define you, or you can let it refine you. You can stay broken, or you can rebuild yourself into something even more beautiful than before. The woman I am today is stronger than the woman I was before that night. Not because of what Ethan did, but because of what I chose to do after. I chose courage over comfort, growth over stagnation, self-love over self-doubt. And those choices, made day after day, moment by moment, are what transformed my life. So yes, I went through hell. Yes, I experienced pain I wouldn't wish on anyone. Yes, there were moments I didn't think I'd survive, but I did survive. I more than survived. I thrived. And if I can do it, so can you. You deserve more than someone who makes you feel small. You deserve more than love that comes with conditions. You deserve more than constantly questioning your worth. You deserve someone who sees you, really sees you, and loves every part of what they see. But most importantly, you deserve to be that someone for yourself. Look in the mirror and see what I see now. A survivor, a warrior, a masterpiece in progress. See the strength in your eyes, the resilience in your smile, the beauty in your authenticity. See someone worthy of love, respect, kindness, and joy. Because you are. You always have been. You always will be. And one day, when you're living your best life, when you've healed and grown and become the fullest version of yourself, you'll look back on this moment and realize the person who broke your heart actually set you free. Free to discover your own strength, free to define your own worth, free to write your own story.